Hey, Scott Jordan and Mark Warner here for Jancast number 187 for Thursday, March 20th, 2025. And you know what that means, Mark? It's getting warmer. Things are looking good. You
At
know?
5:20 a.m. Eastern Time, spring starts.
Yeah, even though it was 30 degrees this morning when I got up, but it's going to be 60 degrees by the end of the day. So we're trending in that right direction. That it's gradually warming up. So I'm looking forward to it. And looking forward to our special guest that we have with us today. Dinesh is back from the last time we talked to him. It was eons ago, back in June of 2024. Seems like forever, huh?
Right, it does. No, thank you so much for having me back again. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, no, we're thinking perfect timing to get you back because we've been doing all this AI stuff here at Bullen, video creation, formulation creation, SDSs. I mean, it's advancing so quickly, it's unbelievable. I mean, I don't even remember what was going on back in June of last year, but I think we were probably at the number two chat GBT or something like that. Now we're at 4.5. So things are really changing, right?
Absolutely. It's moving quick. The pace at which technology improves and gets better is faster than ever. It's touching with every month that goes by, touch more and more applications. And
Yeah.
yeah, we are trying to embrace it as well and trying to do some good things and valuable things with it.
Yeah, yeah. I shout out to a podcast that I listen to, AI for Humans. Check it out. It's a weekly show. It's only a half an hour long, but every week they talk about this is the new stuff, and it's like that's where we created. I got the idea of creating the theme song for Jancast is from that podcast. So, Mark, I don't know if there's any specific news we need to cover because this man we got with us here, he's got a lot of stuff to talk about and tell us about, right?
He surely does. And the best part is, and I guess it might be newsworthy, so let me throw this in there, that we're pretty excited about ending up in Baltimore at the Baltimore
Yeah.
Convention Center. That's the Clean Buildings Conference and the National Facility Management and Technology Show, which is fascinating that we're talking about AI because I think that's going to be a large part of what facility managers are looking at is how to incorporate AI into their managing of a building. And part of that is this whole movement into the Internet of Things and dashboard management of a building and getting all the details about when the toilet paper was refilled and what the towel cabinets are looking like, And now we've got the ability to monitor a lot more. So, and I'll let Dinesh talk about some of the things that we have the ability to monitor. By the way, folks, Dinesh Wadhwani is the president and CEO of ThinkLite Air, somebody that Scott and I very highly admire. He's at the forefront of the sciences of understanding the impact of indoor air quality on human beings and how the internal environment, the buildings kind of contribute to our health and well-being or the opposite. And I remember we've had some conversations in the past with Dr. Charles Gerba,
Yeah.
who also talked about the fact that surfaces can influence the quality of the air, and the quality of the air can influence surface cleanliness. And so, Dinesh, you are so much on the forefront of this whole science of looking at the interior environment of being somewhat holistic. It's not just touch points and doorknobs that we need to worry about. It's everything inside those walls. So, and by the way, folks, Dinesh has been running all over the country educating people on the aspects of indoor air quality.
Yep.
So, without stealing any thunder from you, Dinesh, I thought I'd give you a real quick intro. And again, Scott mentioned that, you got the longer version of this back in June 6th of 2024. But we're really, really glad to have you back, Dinesh. So one of the bigger questions is there's so much in the news about air quality now. And, one of the things that even Joe Random brings up is what do you think about this measles thing? And our comeback is, that's kind of like COVID in the sense that much of it is spread through the air. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's measles is no different than other types of airborne pathogens bacteria, COVID, flu type symptoms, and not symptoms, but transmission methodology. At the end of the day, no matter the mutation, no matter the variant, it's always in something new, right? If you go back to the fundamentals and the basics, there are three modes of transfer of pathogens, including measles: the surfaces, your hands, and the air, right? The air is the single largest medium that holds all of these things and moves them around. Over 80% of the time, people will contract a sickness is because of particles in the air. So can you get measles from touch? You touch, something, there's some, particulates of measles on the table, and you touch your face, it goes into your respiratory system. Of course. How often does that happen compared to just walking into a room and breathing, right? So for the most part, you contract it by the air. And not different from other pathogens, why is it a virus or why is it an infection that can hack our system? Because the particulate size of measles is very small and can go through our lungs and into our bloodstream very quickly and very easily. To get specific, it's down to below 0.3 microns. The smaller it is, the deeper it penetrates and the quicker it hacks our system.
So when we talk about 0.3 microns, what that triggers in my mind, being a guy involved with the cleaning industry, is that the 0.3 micron has always been the target mesh of a HEPA filter. And so what we're talking about
below 0.3 microns. They got to be below 0.3 microns.
Yeah, so anything below 0.3 is passing through it like water through a screen door, which I think is why they didn't put screen doors on submarines.
Well, they probably did and realized real quick it wasn't going to work.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's why, again, back to the fundamentals, right? We are trying to embrace technology and use the science of our biology to optimize buildings for wellness. And if you want to truly purify the air for wellness, you got to have filtration systems or purification systems with efficacy down to 0.1 microns. That's where you're going to capture things like measles as well. We also realized that before you start to manage this properly, indoor air quality monitoring is a very valuable tool to know where your hotspots are, where is the infection coming from, where are the people congregating, because the more you deposit stuff in the air, that's where you get to a high enough concentration for it to transmit and carry disease, right? The one guy in the office is not a high priority compared to the common area where you have 20 people, within 1,000, 2,000 square foot radius, right? So how do you do that properly and efficiently? Air quality monitoring, is our answer to that. When you do air quality monitoring, you want to make sure that you're also counting the particles and profiling the particles down to the smallest 0.1 microns, which is the most dangerous. So now you can gauge the safe rating or the wellness rating of that area, and you know where to prioritize for purification.
Because realistically, you can't expect the filtration system to get it down to the point where you don't have to worry about it, because just walking in and out of the building is going to create flow. That's really, I know I have an old house, and you can't keep it hot because it's got no insulation, right? So realistically, you're in this business. The goal isn't to end up with a filtered building facility, because that's kind of impossible, isn't it? It's more what you're talking about, detecting it so you can at least then say, this is what we're doing wrong in this particular area.
That's right. Identify the hotspots.
Yeah.
Address it. We call it localized cleaning.
Yeah.
Right? If you're trying to move air through your filters, and everyone says, I upgraded my filters, maybe at best more of 13 filters, which, by the way, don't go down to the small, 0.1 micron size. But even if you have very high rated MERV filters in your HVAC system and your return air, think about the energy, the time, and the responsiveness to move air around an entire zone across thousands of square foot and multiple rooms for that particle in that cubicle to make its way up to that filter, get properly addressed or filtered, and move around back. In most buildings, at best, you're exchanging the air maybe once an hour, maybe twice an hour. and over 90% of it is recycled air. It's the same air, right? So how do you address that, right? And if you try to put MERV 19 systems, which is, by the way, MERV 19 is the classification of a filter that goes down to zero point 0.1 micron. Another street name for it is called ULPA filters, ULPA, ultra low particulate air filters. ULPA filters is one step above a HEPA filter, right? So HEPA filters won't get you down to 0.1 micron. ULPA filters will. But if you put it on your HVAC, it's going to suffocate the system because now you cannot power through enough to make it happen, and it's expensive. So hence the need for localized cleaning. Do it independent of your HVAC. Monitor the hotspots and clean it right there from the hotspots.
Well, two thoughts come to mind. One is I know that you talked about this as a speaker at the ASHRAE conference in Indianapolis last year.
Right.
And you kind of caught everybody's attention with everything that you're talking about. The other piece wasn't just locating the hotspots, but what fascinated me quite a bit was that you were able to determine the time of day that there were changes in indoor air quality and actually track it back to what level of activities were taking place at 11:45 yesterday or at 4:15, last Tuesday. And that fascinated me quite a bit because some of it tracked back to the mere act of cleaning itself, which was disturbing air. Absolutely. So I remember that caught me. And I remember asking you about localized targeted cleaning of air. And we got into the conversation about MERV filters, but you explained to me that there were 3 other things that were incorporated in the specialty aspect of cleaning localized air, right? It's not just the filter, it's other things.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up, because the other thing about localized cleaning is you want to size it right to address the right cubic feet of air. Right? And the other aspect is how many times are you doing a cleaning, right? If you have 1,000 square foot room and you have an effective air cleaner and it's cleaning the air once an hour, effectively down to 0.1 microns, that may not be enough, right? The CDC recommends 5 air exchanges an hour. In other words, once every 12 minutes, you should be cleaning the air, right? And to your point, Mark, is the filtration is one of the most important ones to get the particulates out. But there's other things that we do, and that is considered best practice by ASHRAE, is first and foremost is UVC. UVC lighting with the right dwell time. That's key. People have a UVC light and the air is just blasting through it, right? It's not enough dwell time, right? But you want to have some sort of a chamber or reaction chamber where if you have an effective air purification, air is going in and it has enough dwell time in that concentrated UVC light, which will break down any bioload, right? It can deactivate the viruses. It can break down mold spores to really get into the exact point that makes them harmful, right? So we break and deactivate those things. The second thing is concentrated UVA light. UVA light is quite different from UVC. UVC, as we know, is the deep purple light. It's dangerous to be exposed to it in your eyes and your skin. UVA is less dangerous. UVA is the same spectrum we get from the sun. It's kind of whitish light, bluish whitish light. What UVA does is it breaks down all the smells, odors, and toxic gases. So like ammonia, your VOCs, your formaldehydes, your carbon monoxide, ozone. And UVA is the same light we get from the sun. So have you heard the old wives' tale? I like to say that if your socks and shoes don't smell too good, you put them out in the sun, right? You get rid of the odor, right? Or if you have fresh paint in your living room, you open the curtains, let the sunlight come in, to get the smell away. That's because the UVA from the sunlight is breaking down all these other gases. So the other aspect is UVA lighting. We do concentrated UVA lighting to break down these gases, and then you have your MERV 19 filtration. So the combination of UVC, UVA, and the MERV 19 truly gets rid of all kinds of contaminants, right? Because a great example is like wildfire smoke. Big problem, right? Especially in what's happening in LA right now, is in the wildfire smoke, you have tiny particles that the filtration will clear, but you also have smells and odors and other toxic gases combined with the particles. The UVA will break that down for you too, right? Now you're really getting rid of everything in the air, if that makes sense.
It surely does. And it reminds me of something else that you taught me, and that was that breaking down VOCs and odors isn't just about, making the air smell nice. It's because pathogens can hitchhike on these
Yeah.
VOCs and rocket themselves around a room. And
Right.
can you touch on that science? Because that is mind blowing. That's like Star Trek episode number, 174. It's like these things rocket around and you don't have any feeling of airflow in a room. And yet, if somebody pops open the cap of a can of gasoline, you
Yeah.
smell it in a second and you're 40 feet away.
Right.
And you didn't get hit by a blast of air, but you smelled it in an instant.
Right.
And I can't say I fully understand how that can happen, but you have been also exploring VOCs and their ability to transmit pathogens, which is
Right.
why that UVA is so critical,
That's
because
right.
it's not just getting rid of odors, it's getting rid of the,
Yeah.
you
The
know,
carriers.
the horse.
That's right. Absolutely right. And it's funny you mentioned because the way VOCs travel in space or in air is, the most fascinating things are the most simplest stuff. It's not that complicated, right? Is the name volatile just suggests it's high energy, highly pressurized. So they have their own energy to just keep vaporizing in the air,
Hmm.
right? So irrespective of airflow, airflow will only catalyze it even more. But even without airflow, these, like, think about stuff like cologne, right? When you're brewing coffee, right? When you're baking cookies, right? The smells travel so fast because the odor is highly vaporized, highly pressurized, which means they just have energy and they're moving in the air. So to your point, Mark, is someone could be filling gas a couple feet away, or someone next door could be baking cookies, and you crack open your office door for just 1 second and slam it shut. It still fills the room. So if you could see VOCs do its thing in the air, that's how fast they move. Now, when they move, they're creating currents in the air, right? And now you have your tiny 0.1, 0.2 micron particles that may be floating in the air. So, by the way, if you could see a 0.1 or 0.2 micron particle in the air, they are so light, they don't have enough weight or mass to project itself around the room, right? So they just float in the air like a feather, right? And it could just be hanging out in the air like a cloud for hours or for days. So now you have, call it the cloud effect of these tiny harmful particles. But now you have VOCs being introduced, right? Those currents will just latch on and start to move them around, right? So having high VOCs, and we all know this, especially from the chemical and cleaning industry, some VOCs are actually bad for you, right? Some VOCs not so bad, but irrespective, good or bad VOC, you are now acting as the carrier or the horses, as you say, that move these particles all around the room to make it even more conducive for transmission.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I think the basic, here's the basic takeaway. So it's kind of like when you're going over a bridge or you're going through a tunnel. So you're going in your office, just hold your breath. That's all. Just like we do when we go across a bridge, like you were a kid in your car. It's like, okay, here comes the tunnel. Let's see if we can hold our breath through it. So we just have to do the same thing going into our office.
Well, quite honestly, I never really wanted to see the driver doing that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, yes, but thankfully, there's technology out there, right, to help.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
it's quite amazing how in a typical office space, typical school, cleaners would come in, offset VOCs. You have carpet, you have paint, you have furniture, and by the morning time comes, the room is just high on VOCs, right? Just overnight, off gassing happens. Sometimes old buildings, brick buildings. Then kids walking in the morning, or your workers coming in the morning at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. And it's just whatever they're exhaling is latching on and just snowballing all day, right? It's so common. It's like, we people got to know about this, and you got to be able to manage it, measure it, and manage it, right?
Yeah.
I have such a thirst to know about this stuff. And what is fascinating me is we just talked back in June, and everything you're talking about, like right now, is so much more advanced
Yeah.
than what we had a chance to talk about in June. And this technology is increasing at such a high rate. How do you keep up with all this? Do you have a team?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, my grandfather used to say, you go alone, you may go fast, but you go with a team, you go far, right?
That's good.
And yeah, so we feel so grateful and blessed. We have an awesome, awesome team, a great tech team, lots of programmers in-house. We do our R&D out of Germany. We have a great OEM partner out of Korea, South Korea, with Samsung, who makes all our components. And most recently, what we are really excited about, we were so fortunate to bring on board a very world-renowned doctor, Dr. Stephanie Taylor, who has a lot of her thesis from Harvard on how several health conditions are triggered by certain constellation of air quality metrics. And not only does she have some great research on that, but she's also a practiced and a master in architecture for buildings. So when I first met her, I was like, who is a doctor who understands air quality and buildings this well?
Yeah.
There's not many people that walk the planet with such kind of a qualification. And it's like, this is pretty awesome. And to your point, Marcus, I'm like, can you do me a favor, doctor? Can we download all your research and your brain into our software so we can it's available to the rest of the world? And that's my newest mission that we are trying to figure out with our tech team to really push the boundaries of technology to make the understanding of how bad air quality can affect certain vitals, certain organs, and trigger certain health conditions.
Yeah.
And not all those health conditions are like life-threatening. Some of them are just uncomfortable. Things like migraine headaches and stuff, right?
Sure. And some are short term, and some are medium term, and some are long term, right? So imagine this is the future, that I imagine is today, with our technology, you walk into a room and they can tell you how safe or unsafe the air quality is, and can tell you what's triggering it to be unsafe. Is it VOCs? Is it smells? Is it wildfire smoke? Is it mold spores? Is it disease and viral load? That much we can tell you today, right? So if you walk into a room and there's people who are sick, there, a lot of viral load, that's quite different from, hey, you have a lot of smells here, right?
Yeah.
That's quite different from if you have mold spores here, and you can trigger different decision based on that, right? And sometimes we don't make it available for everyone walking into a public space, but the building manager knows that, right? And they know how to optimize before people come in.
Wow.
So that's what happens today. With the use of machine learning and all this incredible research that has already been done, by the way, how can we take scanning of these particles and profiling them and correlating them to the health conditions that they trigger?
Yeah.
Certain combination of particles in the air, VOCs in the air, carbon dioxide, humidity can tell you, hey, Mark, the air quality in here is actually really bad for focus and cognitive function. The air quality in here is most likely to trigger a headache or a migraine. Or the air quality in here is bad for your blood pressure. Or the air quality in here is so bad that if you stay in here for long enough, like toxic smoke, it could trigger lung cancer in the long term, right? You see these conditions that will contribute to not just long-term, but also short-term health conditions.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think we got enough for this show.
Amazing,
But
Dinesh.
I think we should probably touch base in maybe 6 months, and maybe we can get that doctor on with you as well.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And we can go really deep into it. But
maybe we do a demonstration of how the software is actually working, right?
Yeah.
As our team puts it together, it's actually really fun.
That would be
Walk
fantastic.
into a room, see what's going on, and be like, the air quality in here is actually bad for X condition. And it's like, oh my goodness, right? And all the algorithms is doing this thing at the back to tell you why.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time. We appreciate getting the update, and who knows where it'll be another 3-4 months from now, you know?
Sounds good. You guys will definitely know, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, and have a great show in Baltimore. And Mark and I were talking about maybe doing a teaser from the booth, so we'll see how that goes. But thanks for joining us again, Dinesh. Very much appreciate it. And
My pleasure.
Mark, any final words?
Just that we're really looking forward to having a chance to share a lot of this information with the folks that come by at the NFMT show, Facility Management and Technology Show. And I think it's just exciting to be on the leading edge of stuff like this.
Yeah.
Dinesh, thank you.
My pleasure.
It gives us things to talk about that most people have never really gotten their arms around. And that's kind of what we pride ourselves on, is trying to stay on that leading edge of technology. So thank you.
Cool.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here again, and I'll see you guys all at NFMT next week. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Cheers.
Tune in to Jancast, time to clean the air. Sparkling ideas, you're aware. From the floors to the sky, let's make it new. Jancast will see this mission through. Jancast.com, where clean begins. Podcasting dreams where fresh winds. Eco thoughts and healthy spins. Jancast.com, let's dive in. Dust off the doubts and shine the day. Insights clear to light our way. From scrub to eco tips, bright and true. Jancast here for me and you. Jancast.com